not only the physical space, but I guess the relation
Yeah,
kind of
but
got
the
space.
crazy thing is, it didn't really affect me that much at first,
Okay.
because one thing you asked a question earlier, what core lessons did I learn from my father
Yeah.
as he was one of the main things I learned, and just by watching him, was his level of poise with everything. I've seen my dad lose his temper one time, maybe, and I mean lose his temper just one time, and this is over,
Yeah.
my entire childhood. Even when he was upset with me and, he would discipline me, of course he would, discipline me and, be stern, but I've never seen him lose his temper just one time. And I heard it. I didn't even see that.
All right, let's get it. Welcome to the Dear Son Show. We have conversations about fatherhood. It's for fathers, those with fathers, and the fatherless, so nobody's left out. These are conversations that I want my son to have access to as he matures through life. So no topics are really out of bounds.
Sir, yes, sir.
As you can hear, the rumblings of a guest, you guys don't have to deal with me again. We got a great guest. Exciting. Had to tap in with the young folks again. Mr. Forrest Brooks, welcome to the Dear Son Show. How are you, my brother?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I feel blessed and honored, man.
Oh,
blessed and honored.
Appreciate you being here, man. You got an interesting dialogue going on, what I see on your Instagram page. And
yes,
you framed it as the couch, correct?
Yes, sir.
Talk a little bit about that, because I want people to, I like to share the platform. I want people to know what the guests are doing too. So let's get that out the way early.
So the couch goes way back to when I was about 22, 23. My sister's husband, his name is Ryan Perkins. He's a pastor in Louisiana. And some of my toughest conversations were had because he has a unique gift of seeing something you're going through without you having to say a word. He can pull it out of you. And a lot of that happened while I was sitting on his couch.
Gotcha.
It wouldn't happen like at a bar or the park or at church. It would be us at the crib, and we would just be sitting there watching TV, and then he would just start talking.
Gotcha.
And it wouldn't be him trying to like preach to me. It would just be conversation.
Gotcha. What's the pastor's name again?
Ryan Perkins.
Ryan Perkins, shout out to you. Is he still alive?
He is.
Cool. Shout out to you.
He's a pastor of a church, Pure in Heart Ministries. It's in Louisiana.
Louisiana. Is that where you're from?
No, sir. So my family is from Louisiana.
No more sirs, bro.
It's a common courtesy, man.
No more sirs, man. We'll get to your age in a second, but he trying to. I know the grays are coming through.
Man.
You see my struggle afro growing, man. We're trying to get there, but no more sirs, bro.
I got you. So no, my family is from Louisiana, Monroe mostly. I was born in Maryland, and as soon as I was born, we moved to Connecticut. So
Maryland, the state?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
cool.
Yeah.
You're East Coaster for real.
East Coast, definitely, through and through. Yeah. So I was raised in Connecticut. As soon as I graduated, like I walked the stage, and then an hour later, I left to Louisiana because my mom was here.
Gotcha.
So, and then I left to Texas, excuse me, and then I moved around the South a few times to Louisiana, back and forth to Texas. But
okay. What was early life like? I didn't realize you were an East Coaster. Probably, I don't know. I don't know if that should have jumped out at me. And now I'm an East Coaster. That's why it's resonating.
Right,
I'm from Virginia. What was life like in Connecticut early days?
Well, I love Connecticut. I love my home. I was bullied growing up, so in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't the best. The best experience. But my family, I had a loving church. So it balanced out. I had one life with my church. I had one life at home. My father was present growing up. And so I had my circle of friends from different cities. I hung out with them all the time. So I had a very fortunate upbringing. I had a family, I had friends, a church, a loving community. But I was bullied at school.
Gotcha.
And, when you're young, you don't see that. All you see is, you don't see the blessings you have. You just see the curses, the picking on,
right,
the comparison. So in the grand scheme of it, I had a good upbringing, but I had some tough moments because I was bullied.
Yeah. Do you remember where it started and stopped, or did it stop during your school?
As far as the bullying went?
Yeah, the bullying, yeah.
It started, I would say, when I was about 12 or 13, because that's when I kind of like, it became obvious that I was going to be small, because I'm not a big guy. So, and then on top of that, I was hot-headed. So people could get a reaction out of me very easily when I was younger. And, it became a thing like, man, just pick on Forrest, man. He's gonna get mad, and it's gonna be a scene, and he can cause it. And then on top of that, I wasn't a rough kid growing up. So, I mean, and then I went to a magnet school, which means they bring kids from all over the city.
Gotcha.
And some kids in there were rough. And so they would pick and choose who they would pick on, and I'll be the one because I'm, easy to pick on pretty much because I give that reaction.
How far did the hot head go? Was it just that's just how it started and somebody else would end it, or did you?
It started, I was never a punk. So anything that I got into, I knew I'd have to throw my hands and have to back up my mouth. So I won some, I lost some. And I think the worst it got was when I got jumped after school. And that beef was so bad between me and that young man that it was actually a grade beef. So like the kids in my grade and the kids in his grade started going at each other. So they had to sit me and my mom down, him and his parents down there. It got like that.
Gotcha.
And I ended up switching schools next year because it was just,
Gotcha. And you mentioned your father was in your life. Was it all
growing up?
Growing up.
Yeah.
What phases was he there? Let's stay with the bullying phase. Was he there during the bullying phase?
But he didn't know much about it.
Why?
Because my mom was the nurturer. She was the one that really checked in and like the emotions, the nurturing part of that, the maturation process. My dad was always there, but me and my dad didn't really have, like emotional conversations.
Gotcha.
Or like, what are you going through conversations.
Yeah.
He was more of a symbol, a very strong symbol. He's more of a symbol than, what my mom was. So she's the one that knew most of it. My dad, he knew of it because they were married, they talked, but we didn't have those conversations that much.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you gain from your father, the way that he treated you? Like, what was the most memorable? What impacted you the most about your relationship? And I'll frame it for you because my father, I had a great father too, right? In the home, wanted the best for me. We didn't have we didn't have a lot of in-depth conversations.
Okay.
Right? I saw him model something and I knew that was the tone that he was going to set. So any deviations from that, I wasn't comfortable bringing to him in a conversation.
Makes sense.
So it was a lot of stuff that I heard from him. We didn't have a lot of conversations.
Right.
And he's from the school of be seen, not heard, right? His father didn't talk to him, right? So there's a whole history there. So he's learning, he recognized that, but he's learning how to be a father. And he didn't have a really great model in terms of communication. Right. Dad was a provider, but the further you go back generationally, you'll see that, right? So that's a common theme. But like, how did it impact you early? Like, when did you recognize that there was something that you weren't getting from your father, or did you ever feel like that?
I didn't get that until, man, it's tough to talk about this. I didn't get that until he remarried. So my father, he was promiscuous. Okay. He stepped outside of my mother, outside the marriage. And I thought it was a one-time thing, but it was actually it was a lifestyle for him. Right. And I didn't know that part until I was older. She kept that from me, which I understand why. But so when my dad remarried, he remarried with the mindset that since I messed up the first time with I'm not gonna let this one fail.
Got it.
So he directed a lot of his energy towards that.
Yeah.
And that happened when I was about maybe 17, I want to say.
Gotcha.
Right on the precipice of me being a man. So I never felt like my dad kept things from me as far as like him pouring into me, him raising me, things of that nature. Because even after him and my mom split, he was still there around. It's just when I graduated and when I left, that kind of was the end of that. Okay. Everything changed after that.
How much of his new relationship was in your face? And if it was, did it cause resentment, or like, it sounded like there may have been some kind of strain to the relationship at some point, but how did that happen if it happened?
To be truthful, the funny thing is it wasn't in my face at all. That's the irony. I don't want to put this kind of energy out there because I don't know for sure, but gotcha. From what I've heard as far as my sister, because my sister and my dad are a lot closer than me and my dad are. Okay. From what I've heard from her, my mother, and then people on his side of the family that I've talked to me, she alienated him from us. Like, they got together and she slowly started, and I felt the change.
His new wife.
New wife.
Okay.
alienated him from us. So it wasn't in my face at all.
Right.
It was pretty much out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
And I think over the years, it went from, oh, he's busy.
Yeah.
Went from that to, well, I mean, he's focused on, he did his job. I'm 18 now.
Right.
Went from that, like I just kept trying to, until finally I said, you know what? It is what it is. He's probably not coming back. And that's okay. I mean, he's a grown man. He can make that decision. That's what I was thinking.
Right.
Growing up.
Yeah, I'd imagine there's a conflict, right? Because if you take any other scenario where you're given a second chance, right? You hopefully apply the lessons that you learned the first time. But that usually means a person or group of people got hurt in the process, right? And then there's this new life with the new family. At that stage, that's where you went to Texas.
Right.
Right out of Texas. Why? Your mom was?
She was in Texas. Yeah. So I stayed with my dad my senior year of high school.
Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha.
So we were as close. We were best friends. And then it went from that to just kind of like nothing.
Wow.
Everything changed almost overnight.
Yeah.
And
how'd you process that? When did you realize that it had changed? Because that's a very abrupt, you were there. Did you know at graduation that things were going to be different? Or
no,
at graduation, it was the plan to go live with your mom. That's just what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then not only the physical space, but the relation.
Yeah, but the crazy thing is it didn't really affect me that much at first. Okay. Because one thing you asked a question earlier, what core lessons did I learn from my father as he was, one of the main things I learned, and just by watching him, was his level of poise with everything. I've seen my dad lose his temper one time maybe. And I mean lose his temper just one time. And this is over, my entire childhood. Even when he was upset with me and, he would discipline me. Of course, he would, discipline me and, be stern. But I've never seen him lose his temper just one time. And I heard it. I didn't even see that. I just heard it, overheard it. And so something that I paid attention to over all the years was his poise and his soundness in his mind.
Okay.
So when he would explain certain things to me, he would have such a poise about it and such a calm about it.
Yeah.
And so I picked that up over the years. So when I switched high schools, I made a decision to not be hot-headed anymore. I woke up and said, I don't want to be this anymore. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be gangbang. I don't want to be any of that anymore. Right. Yeah. And so I just overnight woke up and said, bro, I don't want to be that guy. I don't. And I had a model to go by, which is my dad.
Right.
And so, being that way growing up, it kind of taught me to process things in a quiet manner, not hide it, but to just process things in a quiet manner.
Yeah.
And so when this happened, it was a thing where, of course, I started noticing it, but it didn't make me feel away for a long time. It did eventually, but it didn't make me feel away because I love my dad. I would never turn my back on him. And people would tell me like, man, I would hate my dad. He left you hanging for a girl. And I'm like, bro, I'm not going to hate my father. I can't do that.
Yeah.
Especially since I was my best friend growing up, I just can't do it.
Poise is a very intentional characteristic or the way to label his mannerisms. You said you picked that up. How has that helped or hindered you as a man?
Man, I'm gonna be blunt.
That's cool.
I feel like Black men nowadays have an extreme lack of poise. The way information is disseminated, the way that we process certain things, how we receive information, how we gain the knowledge, is not what it used to be. And there's so much information overload. But something that's lacking in all that information is how do you process anger? How do you process when things don't go your way?
Right.
How do you act when something happens and you don't have the emotional response? Do you lash out? Do you get upset? Do you shift blame? What do you do?
Right.
And if nothing else, being poised taught me to think first, act second.
Gotcha.
Because I wasn't always like that. I was, like I said, I was hot-headed. I had everything to say. Like, if you try to disrespect me, I'm going to let you know that's not going to happen.
Right.
And if you continue, it's going to be a problem. We can settle it. It was always something where I had to one-up someone because I felt disrespected. And then when I sat and thought about it, I said, dude, why not just chill for a second? Just be cool. You don't always have to respond to everything. Like, just because you're having a bad day or because you feel like you want to do something to me, I don't have to feed into that.
Right.
So, and I think being poised allowed me space and time to think because, as a man, when things happen, you have a split second to respond sometimes.
A lot of time. Yeah.
And it's like, you don't respond the best way all the time because your emotions are going, it's hard to really focus in on what you want to say, what you want to do. And then the idea of you not getting your point across to whatever's going on makes you even more upset.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a bunch of emotions is clashing. And if you just be poised about it and take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not perfect. I lose my temper. I'm human.
Sure.
But being poised definitely helped me in life because it taught me to think before you act, think before you speak, and think before you break certain situations down too. Because the first thing you see isn't always what it is.
Right.
You have to be careful about how you receive things.
Right.
And that helps being receptive as well.
Yeah.
So
that's a great point because you got to be conscious of your state of mind as you initially saw or received the information, right? Maybe there was something distracting you from seeing it for what it really is. And if you react on a misinterpreted piece of information, that could be bad for you and all parties involved. So you moved from Connecticut to Texas. What was that? What was the major difference between living with your father that final year and adjusting to living with your mother in Texas, or was there an adjustment?
No, major adjustment.
Let's hear it.
Because the first adjustment was the people. The people in Texas are a lot different than Connecticut. A lot different.
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to speak. Not speak, but I had to learn how to convey my messages, articulate myself differently because I would come down to the South and I would talk like this, like, how you doing, B? What's going on with it? Like, how people from East Coast talk. We talk like this and it's real heavy and we...
Pause. What part of Connecticut are you from?
Hartford, the beat. The beat. Yeah, the grimiest.
I know Hartford. Offline conversation, but I know Hartford.
Yeah, Hartford is interesting.
What's right next to it? It's man.
It's Windsor, Bloomfield, Springfield. What is it?
It'll come to me. I'm sorry.
West Hartford, New Haven.
Yeah.
Rough area.
Yeah.
Rough area.
Yeah. Offline conversation.
Offline. Yeah. It's all good. It was adjustment. Yeah, I had to learn it. I had to talk different. I had to walk different. Connecticut is different. We get 2 haircuts a week. We iron our clothes. We starch our clothes. We dress well. So I came down here and I had a bunch of guys shooting at me. I'm like, Mom, why so many men shooting at me? She said, well, son, you look like you're well groomed. And I said, okay, what does that mean? And it's an adjustment because I got my eyebrows, like I got everything. Like I took care of myself.
Guys shooting at you.
Shooting a shot, definitely. All the time. All the time.
That needed an interpretation because I was tripping.
I'm sorry, shooting a shot all the time. And I'm like, do I look certain? Now, I have nothing against, the community, but it shocked me because I'm like, well, why? Like, why is it happening? And she said, well, because typically that's not what happens down here. Wow. So I had to learn a whole different lifestyle pretty much.
Wow. And
then also on top of that, I was learning a different church lifestyle because I grew up in Kojic Church, Church of God in Christ. Very, very strict, rules oriented. Taught me very core lessons in life, some great core lessons. But then I got to the South and the first church I went to was all about relationship. So they were talking about, man, it's okay to mess up. And I said, what? No, it's not. Yeah. I can't mess up. That's not how this goes. Like, who taught you that? Yeah. And it's like everything was a shock. The women, how the men talk, the alphaism in the men is different than Connecticut. You know that. Everything is just different. And then my mom was a lot, I don't want to use the word more, she was more patient, but I want to say she was a little less pushy.
Okay.
And I think ultimately, mom's loves her sons. Yeah. And so I think in a way I kind of got comfortable and I shouldn't have, but that was a tough adjustment too.
You shouldn't have got comfortable.
Shouldn't have got comfortable. No.
What do you mean?
So I got used to, I'm gonna just put it out there. Like when I came to the South, I had a job in Connecticut. I didn't like it. I hated it. When I came to the South, I was so rooted in being in ministry that I didn't want anything else to distract me. So I didn't want to get another job. I didn't want to pick up any trades. I didn't want to do that because in my mind, because of what I knew growing up, has to be church everything, God everything, church everything, no matter what, God everything, church everything. Because Kojic, Monday night prayer meeting, Tuesday night choir meet, like it's just.
I was going to ask, which day were you not in the church?
There was no day.
Okay,
no day.
Yeah.
Maybe Saturday, and that was church too because we played basketball with the youth minister in the park. So and that was the scripture there too. So it's like every day.
I understand that. I understand the very rules and deeply disciplined religion. So I grew up very good at religion, terrible at relationship.
Right.
This change or this different approach to understanding God that's introducing the necessity of a relationship to you, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
How has that helped develop you? Or is that even a fair question, I guess, right? Because you said that there was a difference between this and that. I'm assuming that you gravitated to the importance of the relationship. So if that's not a fair assumption.
No, it's a fair question. I'll say this. Two different teaching styles both have pros and cons to it.
And utility.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And the thing that I had to come to understand is that it's not, because there's a, and I'm not saying this about all Christians or all denominations, but from what I experienced, there was a sort of a tension between the denominations and the church styles, the preaching styles. And so not only am I receiving different doctrine, different word, I'm also receiving a little bit of, under the table tension. And I'm getting this perception that their teaching isn't as good as this teaching.
Yeah.
Or their teaching isn't as good as that teaching.
Well, here's why that teaching is wrong.
A lot of what I heard from circles that I was in Connecticut was mega church pastors weren't good. They were focused on money. They were focused on image and all this stuff. So I went into it already kind of I went into it with a preconceived notion.
Right.
And so, but as I got older, I learned there are pros and cons to both. I greatly appreciate the upbringing I had in that Kojic church because it laid the foundation for me in knowing how to act, how to carry myself. If you want to represent God in a certain way, you want to represent anything, you need to understand what that comes with and what those requirements might be.
Yeah.
I can't say that I want to be an NBA All-Star and I never practice. Or I can't say that I want to be the president of the Basketball Players Association, but I'm out here, like killing people or doing things, that you shouldn't do. Yeah. And so
it's conflicting with your goals or your stated goals.
Right.
What else was different? Let me back up. How old are you now?
31.
31.
Mm-hmm.
What phase of life did you mature the most? If you had to pick a 3 to 5 year window, what phase did you say would that most inform who you are today, changed you, impacted you in some way?
This one. This phase.
Right now?
I'm in it right now.
Starting now, or can we back up a couple years?
About a year and a half.
About a year and a half. Okay. All right. Let's put a pin in that. We're gonna get to that. But I still want to get this 20s right, because I'm listening to you through the lens of my behavior, looking at my son in the corner of my eye, right? And what to expect, or how does he see the world, or how will it play out for him? How did your 20s play out?
If you were to ask me that question a few years ago, I would say it's time wasted. I just wasted it because I spent so much of my 20s worrying about not making it, worrying about money, worrying about who I was, how people saw me, my image. Because something I didn't touch on is I experienced an intense church hurt at the beginning of my 20s.
Let's talk about it.
So I was...
You said church hurt.
Church hurt, definitely. I don't want to say the church name, but I was a part of a mega church ministry. And when I first got there, I was 18 years old, right? And they had a rule, and this is a mega church, so they have a main ministry and then a youth ministry, a main sanctuary, youth sanctuary type of thing. And when I first got there, they told me, they told everyone the rule was you can't be in the youth ministry or, in this function if you're 18 and up, or if you're a graduate, like out of high school.
Okay. You cannot be there.
Okay. So now I just graduated and I'm 18. So even though I'm going, I know that I can't keep going. So I start to pull back a little bit. Well, one of the leaders comes to me and says, hey, people look up to you, right? This is my introduction to youth ministry. And I said, nah, because I mind you, I got bullied growing up. So that kind of taught me to just kind of beat it myself. But yeah, he came to me and he said, man, they look up to you. Like everyone always asks about you when you don't show up. Like you haven't been here. Like what's going on? Like, how you okay? And I'm thinking, I'm answering his questions. And he said, man, do you want to stick around? And I said, what would I can't. Like I'm too old. He said, no, you can be a student, like a student teacher here. And I was honored because this is a mega church ministry and they want me to. So I felt honored. I was like, man, if that's what you want, I'd love to. And so that started my whole youth ministry journey. And well, about, I would say 2 or 3 months later, maybe even 4 months later, I'm still with the ministry. People are starting to know who I am now because I'm around and they see my face. And I'm meeting, all these pastors, these musicians, these people that are like really well known in this. It's an interesting life. Well, there was a girl.
Always the start of.
There was a girl, yeah. And the girl I had met in the main sanctuary. So we started to talk a little bit, but I noticed things she would say, like the classes she would take, and I'm like, that's a high school class. So I straight up asked her. I said, how old are you? Now I want to frame this right because it's not like I asked her months in. I asked her about a month in because for a month, mind you, I'm a Christian, so I'm taking things very slow. Right. I'm not trying to link up with you, chill with you. I'm not trying to like do anything. I'm just trying to like talk to you, check on you, how you doing. Yeah. God bless you, praying for you. Like, churchy, because I'm still in that.
Church boy.
Yeah, church boy. Yeah. So we didn't start having meaningful conversations until about a month and a half, 2 months in. And that's when I started really picking up things she would say. And I'm like, okay. Until finally I said, can I ask you a question? How old are you? And then she told me she was a senior in high school. So now mind you,
you're 1 year out.
1 year out, she's senior in high school. But either way, she was like, she was 16 at the time.
Gotcha.
So she had done like I had been new to Texas, so I don't really know how the schooling works, but she had done classes the whole time leading up. So she graduated early. Yeah. And so I'm 18, she's 16. In the grand scheme of it, 18 and 16, it's a 2-year difference, especially with her turning 17. It wouldn't be something that would cause a big deal. Right. But seeing that she fell in the category, pretty much the age range of the youth church, it couldn't happen. Right. So I found out how old she was. I went to the pastor at the time. Me and him were click tight. So I thought. And I said, man, like, I got to tell you something. He said, what's up? Talk to me. And I said, there's a girl that I like. He said, oh, who is it? He's excited because, I've been there for months and he's never seen me with the girl. So he said, man, who is it? And I said her name. And he said, man, she's beautiful. Like she's cool, but she falls in line with the youth. Yeah. And I said, I know, that's why I'm talking to you about it. And he said, yeah, man, it's not a good idea. I would just cut it off. And I did. Yeah. I called her the same night. I was mad about it, but in my mind, I'm like, if this is what I need to do to continue to serve, I'm going to do it.
Now, was she thinking that this was developing into something as well? Or?
Definitely.
Okay, cool.
Like I had met her mom, not her mom, but I had spoken to her a couple times on the phone at this point. So we're getting to know each other. Gotcha. And so we knew what it was. So call her, I tell her, she didn't like it, of course, but she had no choice but to respect it. And I think because she knew it was coming from a good place, she didn't have a problem with it. Mm-hmm. So fast forward, we don't hang out anymore. We don't talk as much. Yeah. I might check up on her here and there, but it's not what it used to be, right? Well, she ran away from her and her mom clashed a lot. Okay. Like always button heads. And so I was at Cedar Valley. No, I'm sorry. I was at Mountain View College at the time. Okay. Mountain View College. And so I get a phone call and it's her mom. Like, she ran away from home. I can't find her. We had an argument. So now I'm kind of like panicking, like, well, where is she? I don't know. I said, okay. I leave school. It's like maybe not like I had late classes. It was like 9 at night. I leave school and it was 8 o'clock. I leave school. I find her in the park in Grand Prairie, right? Mm. And so we end up talking. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with her. She's crying. We're talking at night. Well, that night we end up having sex that night, right? That
accelerated,
right? I think it was the emotionalism of things. Yeah. I think it was just the closeness of the conversation, the intimacy that was exchanged. That's something that really gets me. Yeah. Is intimacy and conversation. Right. So it ended up happening. Now, Frank, picture this. I'm feeling terrible after this happens because I'm like, man, like God trusted me with these kids and I'm out here doing this. Like I'm gonna get like I was just tripping. Like I was really guilty. Yeah. I felt super guilty. And so I reached out to my mentor at the time. And we made a promise, like don't tell no one, stuff like that. Cause I felt bad. She felt bad. I genuinely felt bad. I wasn't just saying that. Yeah. And so I reached out to my mentor at the time and I told him what happened. And he said, he talked to me about it. You know, he was stern in his, like, man, you know, you shouldn't be doing this and the third. He wasn't, because he's more of an, I don't want to use the word abrasive, but he's more of a stern.
Straight shooter.
Yeah. Thank you. And so he let me know. And then I also had another mentor that I talked to, a young lady. Looked up to her, great young lady. And she lit me up too. Just straight lit me up. Like, bro, you can't, like, and it wasn't, when and this is the thing, when Christians sometimes get mad, it really comes out of them.
Yeah.
And so like they both lit me up, which I needed it because I was slipping. Well, she told one of her mentors. And after that, I can't really tell you what happened because it got so messy. Like I heard that it got around to the young adult pastor who I had admiration for. And it got back to me that he defended me because he knew who I was. And he said, nah, that's not what he's about. He's not, because the rumor was I was sleeping with girls in the church. Like multiple girls, like not women, girls. Yeah. So the rumor got around that I was sleeping with like multiple like girls in the church. It got around that I was doing this, doing that. It got so bad that the man under the megachurch pastor was like, who is this grown man having sex with girls? And like, it got really bad. And I didn't know who to trust because everyone that's saying this stuff, I'm thinking is my close friend. Because mind you, my whole life is ministry at this point.
Right.
All my old friends, all my old homies, I don't talk to them as much. My lifestyle is different. So I went from having like this glowing reputation, this glowing, you know, like all of that to nothing. Because I want to say about a day and a half later, I got a phone call from the youth pastor that asked me to stay. And he said, hey, man, I have a question to ask you. And it's a tough question. And I already knew what it was about. And he said, did you sleep with so-and-so? And I said, yeah, this is what happened. This is how it happened. This is when it happened. This is the situation. He said, cool. Thank you for being honest. But here's what I need. Delete all of us off your Facebook. Delete all of our numbers.
Can't be connected.
Don't come around no more. If we see you, it's going to be a problem. Like
on site.
Like they have your face. They have you. Like it was like straight, like, don't come around. We don't want to see you. And I said, okay. And I hung up. And it didn't hit me at that point, but I was like, I thought we were like brothers, bro. Like, and now here's the thing. Looking back on it now, I see the risk of that, of what I did. Because if you have a brand, you have a business, you have anything. And if one of your team members or one of your employees does something that can jeopardize the brand, you have to discipline that.
Yeah.
And also make an example. Like there are things you have to, you know, so I understand the business aspect of it, but at the same time, I don't believe it was handled the best way because I walked away from that 18 years old thinking that, like, what just happened, bro? Like, what happened?
So, short conversation sounds like, do you think that they thought you were a threat or just a threat to the ministry within the church, that group, or a threat to what people externally would see?
I have no
that
idea.
Brand is. And that's an interesting word to use for a church because essentially that's the difference in a lot of denominations, how they brand their praise and worship, how they brand their
their identity. Yeah. I know where you're going. You're going. But I can't tell you. I have no idea because I couldn't talk to anyone. I was trying to apologize. I was trying to make amends, not to come back, just to, because the role that I had doesn't mean it bump that. I don't really, but the connections I had, like, don't leave me hanging. Like, if you need to sit me down, you need me to disappear, fine, but don't just drop me and forget about me.
Was this because you mentioned Kojic, and I believe Kojic has that is a discipline in the Kojic community, right? To sit someone down, or is that, I might be confusing it. Is there a formal sitting down of?
I'm sure there were situations like that, but remember, in that span of time, I was a kid. I was,
gotcha, yeah.
You know, so
I just heard certain religions that people frame as strict or what have you, a very have disciplinary measures for messing up. And I know one of them calls it, I was formally sat down and I was quieted or something like that.
But it's contingent upon who you are and what you bring to the table. Because I've seen people in church,
the business of it.
I've seen people in church who people know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But because if you you sit them down, it's going to be a threat to the infrastructure, to the money, to all that. They turn a blind eye. But if it's someone that has no type of like, you don't do anything for us, you're just a body that can be replaced.
Yeah.
Get out, bro. You'll be all right. And that's kind of what I had to deal with, because my best friend, my second best, like every single person I was close with, I lost overnight. I couldn't talk to them. They wouldn't talk to me.
So that was your village, right? So I'm trying to piece it together. Last year of high school with your father, come to live with your mother. You find friends, you find mentors, you find an extended family at this particular church. And I don't generalize churches, but your specific situation that we're talking about, this became your village, right?
Yeah.
And when that village dissipated, did you feel a need for your father?
No, because I hated people. I didn't want to be close to anybody. Like, because I really was moving in about a week, and they had planned to go on a away party for me and everything, a big party. They canceled it. Like, it was, so I moved away with no one. And when is
that going to Louisiana?
That's going to Houston.
Houston.
Because my mom remarried, and I ended up moving with the, family with them to Houston.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't, like, it was bad. Like, I would go with her to church and the pastor, and it's crazy. Wherever I would go, I'd always get that energy of, man, the kids love you, or man, like I like you. I would say, man, don't talk to me. To the pastor, like, bro, don't talk to me. Like, I don't have nothing to say. Like, I was mad at everybody. My mom, I was mad at women. I was mad at God. I was especially mad at God. I was mad at Christians. Like, it was a on-site thing. If I see you and you represent God in any way, shape, or form, I didn't want to talk to you. Like, do not talk to me, like, straight up. And that went on for about 2 or 3 years. I was angry.
How did that work out for you? And how did that period end? Like, was it an event driven? Was there a specific event in your life or a revelation that?
Not revelation. It was my sister's husband, Ryan Perkins.
Oh.
Yeah. He, me and my mother's new husband, there was one situation. He thought I took some money from him, and he ended up spazzing in. He ended up finding the money later on, but by then the damage is done. I had left. And so I called my sister and I said, I don't know what to do. And she said, just come on. We'll come get you. Get your stuff. We'll come get you. So moved in with them. And Ryan Perkins, I would say he literally saved my life. The suicide attempts, the suicide thoughts, like all of it, I was right there. And he brought me to, I'll never forget, he brought me to church one day. We didn't even have church. He just brought me to the church. And he had one of his right-hand mans with him. And he said, hey, man, can I talk to you? And I said, yeah. He said, you don't look well. Your skin is falling off your face. Like, your skin is literally deteriorating. Like, you look skinny. You're not eating. Like, your hair's falling out. Like, you don't look well. Like, I need to pray for you. Like, I need to. Now, mind you, at this point, he's slowly inching into my life as someone that I can trust. But I think he knew that people in church hurt me, and it would take a person to help mend that, because no matter how many times I have dreams about this, or I get, like feelings, like it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, God is going to have to use a vessel to get through to me. Yeah. And Ryan had to have so much patience, because I'm telling you, I was a mess.
So was it more so his words and conversation, or his behavior that led you to?
It was both.
Okay.
It was both because one of my favorite pastors, his name is Tim Ross. Have you heard of Tim Ross? His Instagram is Upset the Gram. He's a phenomenal man. He said something. He said, "You'll probably be the only Bible people read in life." Yeah,
behavior,
pretty much.
Right.
Yeah, and that was so true. I didn't. If he's watching this, if I misquoted you, my bad, bro. But that was the case with Ryan, because Ryan didn't force me to do anything. He didn't force me to get back in ministry. He didn't force me to forgive God or forget. He didn't do any of that. He just lived. Right. He lived, and I saw how he cared. And I'm like, he's doing all this for people, and they're not doing anything for him. He's making sure someone has food in their pantry. He's making sure that they're prayed over. He's making sure the boys are taken care of. He's making sure they have someone to talk to,
Yeah.
and no one's there for Ryan. Like who? I mean, my sister, of course, the family, but who was checking up on Ryan?
Yeah.
And it kind of broke me because it's like, okay, so there really are men of God here that really do care.
Yeah.
And so I think just witnessing that, it woke something up in me that was like, I can accept that, because I had to accept the fact that there were men that are, or people in general, that weren't all bad, and I can trust people. Right. And that was hard too.
You mentioned suicide and suicidal thoughts.
Yeah.
And I don't want to walk down a road that is going to put you back in the place.
We can talk about it. We can talk about it.
But the reason I say that is because I think more people have those thoughts and those feelings when they're alone in them quiet places, but don't have the courage to, courage is probably the wrong word, but aren't able to articulate that to someone because they feel like they would be seen as weak or less than.
Right.
In a very practical sense, if you ask somebody, have they ever considered suicide? You asking them puts them in a place to actually consider it, right? And they may give you an immediate answer because it's the right answer. Some people may say, yes, I did. Here's where I was. I was in this place and here's how I came out of it. And it sounds like you're more of the latter. Right. So I'm asking from that perspective of truly trying to help somebody, not the shock value of you were in that place, but what phase of your life did you recognize that, at least for a short period of time, that you didn't want to be here?
It was, okay, so it was after the church incident, because that wasn't an immediate thing, me going to Taylor and Ryan's, my sister and brother-in-law, because we had bounced around a little bit, back and forth to Texas. So I was in Texas before I went to Louisiana. And I remember there was a girl, once again, that...
Message.
I was messing with her, and she had, now we use protection, but she had told me she was pregnant, right? And it wasn't like, because we did it, and because I'm a church boy, I'm not used to having sex. So like I'm asking I'm worried, are you pregnant? You had your period yet? You had your period? So I'm tripping because I'm also still young. I'm about like maybe 21, 20 at this point. I'm still kind of, or early 20s, maybe 19. It was something like that. No. It was something like that. But so when she said she was pregnant, I was already, now picture just paint my mind for a minute. So I'm already mad at God. I don't have the thing that gave me identity, which was ministry. I don't have my old homeboys like I used to. I don't have any friends still. I don't work that much, so I don't have anything to occupy my time. I don't have anything except, and I don't mind, is the devil's workshop.
I couldn't spit it out. Yeah.
So, of course, women were my go-to. And so when this happened, I already had the sense of God is against me. He does not want me to succeed, doesn't want me to be okay. If he did, I wouldn't have went through that over there. So I'm mad at God. I don't have any hope. And then this happens. And this girl is not someone I want to have a baby by, just straight up. Just not someone that I want to be. It was a bored situation. Like I was bored and it just happened. And then now she's telling me she's expecting. So I said, you know what? And it wasn't the circumstance that drove me to it. It was a feeling of hopelessness. Like I had no hope. Because if God is against me, what hope is there for me? You know, like there's no coming back from that. Right. And I really thought that. I legitimately thought that God hated me, just straight up. And that's the part that I feel like the church that this happened didn't protect me in that sense. Because you can discipline someone and then let them know why. When you spank or when you discipline a child, you let them know what they did wrong. Right. I didn't get that. I just got, you did that, and that was it.
The business.
Cut. Everything was done. Yeah. And so I didn't have the guidance to navigate me through what I was going through. So I just formed my own opinion. No. And that opinion was God hated me. So when this happened, the pregnancy thing happened, I said, man, listen, why am I going to sit here and endure this life? Like, and then I'm finna bring a child into this? Nah. This not finna happen. Now, long story short about that situation, it wasn't, and it didn't end up being mine. You know, I took a test and everything. It wasn't my baby. But to answer your question, yeah, it was that situation.
What did that experience teach you?
About
like going through that roller coaster of emotion, feeling that you weren't worthy to be in the world or bring somebody else into the world. And then you find out that The child is not yours. Where did that put you mentally?
It put me mentally in the space of, it put me mentally in the space. Am I good?
Yeah.
It put me mentally in the space of going back to that poisonous, not overreacting. Because
like your father.
Right. Now, in the grand scheme of it, I never really, after that, so the suicide attempt itself, I had got a bunch of pills and I had, I had some Windex. I had just mixed a bunch of stuff and I was going to just drink it. I had closed the bathroom door, turned the water, the shower on. So my mom wouldn't come in because she's not going to come in there, her son's showering. But she just started banging on it. I don't know why, but she just did. And I just ended up doing it. I couldn't do it because she was about to break the door down. But just thinking about everything that I was about to do, it was like, man, if you would just relax, pray, relax, like calm down, relax, be poised. So it's going to be okay. Just, and the scripture that came to me, now I didn't even read scripture like that yet. It was be still. Now I didn't know that was scripture. Yeah. But when I could taste it on my lips, all I kept hearing was be still. I didn't know what that meant. Yeah. Be still, be still, be still. Yeah. And the scripture, be still for I am God, I'll be exalted in the heavens and the earth. That scripture, it saved my life because I was ready to go. I was out of here. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to talk to any pastors, my mom. I was done. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to talk to God. I was like, bro, I'm done. Yeah. Nothing to talk about. Like, this is my life, right? This is what you want. Right. So I'm out of here. And that for some reason, I just kept hearing, be still, be still. And the next 3 or 4 days was just quiet. I didn't come out of my room. I didn't eat. It was like the quietest 3 or 4 days I've ever had in my life. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know why. It was just peaceful.
That's what I was going to ask. Were you at peace during that time or was it?
I was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So poise, a characteristic that you got from your father. Mm-hmm. At this time, were you aware of his mistreatment in terms of stepping out of the marriage? And
no,
it sounds like he had a thing with women too.
Yeah, no, he wasn't. I wasn't aware at this point.
Okay.
No, this didn't come till later, like years later.
Okay. At any point was there an aha moment like, oh, this is where I get it from? Or your actions are your actions, his actions are his actions?
I believe a bit of both. I honestly believe now that my actions are my actions.
Yeah.
And the lack of me addressing my issues is what led to me running to women every time something went wrong or running to them every time I was bored. Yeah. Like that started when I was young. And because I didn't take it seriously as far as like addressing my issues, it was a seed that kept growing.
Right.
Things you don't take care of when you're a baby, they grow with you.
Yeah.
They never separate if you don't separate it yourself.
Yeah.
And I have men in my life, Brother Al from my old church, Ryan, Brother KB, just men that were around. Even my brothers that I met in Texas, like Shamar, Nate, TC, my brothers, they were like, bro, this issue right here with these women, you got to cut that out.
Yeah.
That's going to evolve into something else so you won't be able to control later on in life.
Yeah.
And a lot of men my age are paying for mistakes they made when they were your age.
Yeah.
So you need to chill out. Like you need to really sit down and reevaluate yourself with these women. So I think it was me. I'm not going to put that on my dad. I mean, my dad had his own struggles for his own reasons.
Yeah.
But I think the character is similar because I'm poised like he is.
Yeah.
Even though I tried growing up to be a gangster, gangbang, it didn't work. But I think in a sense, yes and no, pretty much.
We'll throw a word out there. I want to see how you react.
Okay.
Accountable.
Are we talking about me accepting accountability or just first thing come to my mind?
Are we talking about that?
Man, that's a good word. Accountable. I would say the way my life looked in my 20s and how it looks now is, I would say, a great majority is my fault. Or it's not my fault, but it's on me. Mm-hmm. I wasn't focused on the right things growing up when I was a kid. I wasn't focused on the right things after I graduated high school. I wasn't focused on growth. I wasn't focused on career. I wasn't focused on any of that. And so it took me a while because when you start to realize like your life is passing by, like you get in your late 20s and then you're like, what have I really accomplished? And then you start the blame game is afoot. You like, man, well, my dad wasn't there. This happened to me. But then I sat there and I'm like, nah, that's not what it is. Like you didn't do what you were supposed to do. Like, God has divine appointments. God has divine plans for you. God has these things that he expects you to do, or, you know, he has plans laid out for you. Yes. But if you're not submissive on any level at any time, then your life is a product of what you chose not to do or what you chose to do.
Opportunity cost.
So it's like I had to really understand that. And it also gave me the understanding of you can't just do whatever you want to do and think it's going to work out because you claim to believe in what you believe in.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing that I kind of fell victim to, as well as, you know, if you do something for God or you're a Christian, then, you know, like you got to work it out and second and third, that kind of principle. And I'm like, nah, you have to live a life that you know, you have to walk these steps out. You have to put some action to your words and your beliefs.
Right.
And so, yeah, accountable.
Gotcha.
That's a word.
Yeah, that's a word.
That's
man.
a word.
That's a daily it's a daily assessment. And it's still a struggle for me sometimes because there are things that I don't want to be accountable to that I need to be.
Like what? If you don't mind me asking you.
Having conversations with my son.
Okay.
Right.
Cool young dude, by the way. Cool young dude.
Yeah. I mean,
he
got his little twist now. He feeling himself.
Yeah.
But no, because of the relationship that I had with my father, and again, we were both culpable for the distance between us. He's at the age now where I tried to avoid conversation with my father.
Okay.
That's not his character. That's not his personality at all. But I still struggle with the cool versus the parent. I mean,
it's like finding a balance.
And I used to say cool versus authoritative because you can be but that's not right because you can be authoritative and still have a good relationship.
Right.
But but what if he doesn't want to talk to me?
Right.
Like I didn't want to. Right. And then there's because I didn't have that conversation, it led to A, B, C, and D. Right.
Right.
And it's I want to protect him from A, B, C, and D. And we had a conversation last time. I was like, man, I struggle with how tough tough is relative. I don't want you to be tough, but I want you to have experiences that don't leave you confused at 31. And it's the first time you experience something that rubs you the wrong way. How do you react?
Exactly.
Are you poised? Because you have the information and you have the experience to draw from, right? You can't pull out of you anything that wasn't put in you.
Exactly.
So I that's part of why this podcast came to be, right? To hold myself accountable, to making sure that there's a dialogue, whether it's directly with me and him or it's conversations like this that will give him access to information.
Okay.
Right? Because there's also, what do your parents know? There's that phase. Right. Right. And I have a 19-year-old. So I have a 19-year-old, a 16-year-old, 15-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 7-year-old. So I got all of these phases in parallel
at the same time.
Yeah. Right. And what we missed with 19, are we gonna miss that with 16 and 15? 9 and 7, I guess we're a little bit more conscious because it was such a space of time before we started, hit the reset button on kids. But yeah, that's one major thing that that's probably the most meaningful thing. It's just being a father and a husband, right? There are times that you have to have tough conversations, and they're easily avoidable in the vein of keeping the peace. But that doesn't serve me or my family, and it doesn't bode well. It doesn't reflect what the position and the expectation that God has of me in these roles that He's entrusted to me.
Right.
Daily struggle. Right. And I'm cool with it because I think it's a healthy conflict grows me. I'll just say for me. Right. Yeah. I like that healthy conflict. But when did I feel like now at 31, correct? 31. Yeah. And we said that there was maybe a couple years leading up to this phase of life that you're in now. I feel like all of this points to a level of accountability that you have to accept or measure yourself to. That's the barometer. Like, how are you dealing with accountability in this phase? And what does this phase look like?
So this phase looks promising, but a little bit scary. Not gonna lie, because even though I feel like I'm growing mentally, emotionally, intellectually, um, I'm only 31.
Yeah.
And so I'm still learning the consequences of not making the right decision, the consequences of not spending your money correctly, the consequences of not keeping the right people around. So I'm dealing with accountability now. I'm taking it as it comes, and I'm learning to forgive myself for messing up. I'm learning to forgive myself for going through the process because I don't know everything. And I'm also learning to keep people around me who understand that I'm going to mess up,
Yeah.
who understand that they give me a safe space to grow and to make mistakes. And they're going to pick me up. They're not going to kick me when I'm down.
What does forgiving yourself look like? Because that's an expression that gets thrown around. Like, don't be so hard on you. We all make mistakes. Forgive yourself, but that's more of an active concept than it is passive. And I think people pretty much see it as this switch that kind of flips that I'm over it. Or
no, in my opinion, it's not about so much getting over it. In my opinion, it's about embracing what happened and forcing yourself to sit with it and to accept that it happened for a reason. And that the reason, whether see you or not, it's gonna, if you allow it, it'll help you in the long run.
Yeah.
Because I can take a situation that hurt me and I can choose to let it fester. Or I can take that same situation and choose to learn from it.
Yeah.
Now that is relative to whoever we're talking about. People, they break down situations differently. Some people are more quick to forgive others, and the ones that are quick to forgive others, they're more avid to forgiving themselves and seeing situations from different vantage points. Whereas people who have a harder time forgiving others, they have a harder time forgiving themselves as well.
Yeah.
And those are the ones you find, that I found, not but for me, those are the people that I found take everything a lot harder than the group over here.
Yeah.
And so when I learned that, because forgiveness was hard for me too, because I wasn't forgiven in my opinion, when I was in the situation, that church situation framed a lot of my life.
Yeah.
And so when I felt I wasn't forgiven, I said, every single time someone does something, cut them off. Every single time someone hurts you, get rid of them, replace them, like shun them, ostracize them, don't deal with it. So I had to learn how to forgive others. And for me, when I learned how to forgive others and I understood like everyone's human and I'm going to need forgiveness one day myself.
Absolutely.
Because I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. When I understood that, it also opened up a different realm of understanding problems as they arise. And I ended up looking at issues and problems as opportunities to learn versus, man, I hate that happened.
Yeah.
Like I hated that. Like, why did that? I hate that happen. This, look, whoever's attached to the situation, I don't want to see you. I don't want to talk to you. Like that. Like when you're focused more on learning from something, then the energy towards it also shifts.
Yeah.
And so when I shifted my energy towards understanding and towards the growth aspect of it, that's how I learned to forgive myself.
Yeah.
And it's not me saying, "Oh, it happened. I'm over it." And I think it's like you said, everyone has, it's subjective. Everyone has their own definition nowadays, and it's loosely thrown around. It is very loose. But for me, that's what it was. It's recognizing that every situation, there is a lesson in the situation. Even if it's self-inflicted, there's a lesson in it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I commend you on understanding that and internalizing that at your age.
Really?
Happens a lot later for a lot of people I know, self included. Because you can mask it with other things. And I think being single may be not having a family right now may allow you the space to actually deal with you, right? And I don't know what your other interests are, but I know for me, it was easy to say I'm focusing on my family, knowing there was some things that I need to deal with me. But because the role says a father and a husband does this, and I've said it before, I focused on the mechanics. What it looked like in my house and outside my house, and thought I was doing something, but I wasn't dealing with the real issues. Yeah, it's an interesting story. There's a couple of themes. I like how you I like how you address the accountability aspect, but ministry is a recurring theme in this conversation. Is the couch your ministry?
That's a good question. I would say the couch is an outlet. I feel my ministry is communication. And I say that because wherever I walk, wherever I go, wherever I live, young people are drawn to me. And it's not I don't think because of how I look or how I dress. I just think it's because of how I communicate. I go into every situation looking to respect people.
Yeah.
And I think when they meet someone that's not trying to be hard, that's not trying to be a certain image, it gives them silent permission to just be themselves. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
And so I think the ministry is me. The ministry is you. You know, like these are the equipment, the platform. These are ways that you express.
Yep.
You know, so I think the couch is an outlet that I use to, you know, just communicate. And it all plays into ministry, in my opinion.
What is a successful, and we're wrapping, what does a successful picture of ministry look like for you?
Effectiveness. I would rather be a no name and be effective than have a major platform and never touch a soul. So, yeah, I think effectiveness is where that lies. I've seen people speak a sentence to somebody and change their lives.
Yeah.
And then I've seen people think, you know, that because they're trying to further their name or, you know, different things, because now it's such an image driven society we live in. And although the platform and you being this big person might get eyeballs on you, are they staying on you? Are they walking away changed? Are they walking away learning anything that they can take with them in a real situation? Is it surface level stuff? Is it depth to you? Like is it depth to your conversation? So I think that's my opinion. You know, it's just my own personal opinion is being effective that's ministry with quality.
Yep.
Is when you're effective.
Completely agree, man. I think that's a great way to frame it. A great expectation to set and to live by. And if that governs your activities in the vein or in the name of ministry, I think you'll be fine, man. I am very focused on meaningful content, right? So it's not a numbers game for me. I wanted to reach and affect the people that it's supposed to, and hopefully, you know, as God allows, that's many people. But I understand the place. Like I understand the source of why you're doing it, right? It's genuine, it's pure, and the right people will get it at the right time, man. But let's remind people so that we can help them get to that information. Again, where can you be found? I guess social media, whatever you want to plug, social media, and or the couch or how that's related. Is it up on the streaming platforms yet?
Not yet. I know we talked about it. Not yet. It's coming. It's coming. It will be on YouTube, I would say, by Sunday. Because all the episodes that I've dropped on my Instagram and on the couch platform, they're ready to be uploaded.
Okay.
I just have to upload them. So, but you can find me at Posh Forrest, POSHFORREST, 2 R's, like Forrest Gump. You can find the couch. This is the couch on Instagram. And then the YouTube is This Is the Couch as well. So very straightforward. All of my social media is Posh Forrest. Right? Twitter, Instagram, all of that's the same.
Appreciate you coming on this platform, man. To my listeners, if you're not subscribed by now, what are you doing with your life? Get it all together.
Right. Subscribe. It's only right.
Exactly. If you're on YouTube, what's good? I appreciate you ingesting the visual experience. The Dear Son Network is a channel on Roku. So all you have to do is type in Dear Son Network and you'll have access to this platform, to the entire platform, which houses Healthy Marriage is Dope, which is a conversation that I have, my wife and I have on camera, and it gets real. And then there's a couple of other series that I'm working on the health series and just some other things that I'm very, very excited about and I will be announcing in the near future. That's going to do it for this installment. We appreciate you guys. God bless you. Peace.